Day stood in the center of the great hall, feeling small beneath the massive dome that stretched above him. 200 alien species filled the chamber, each one different from the last. Some floated in tanks of liquid. Others existed as clouds of glowing particles. A few looked almost normal with arms and legs, but their skin shimmered with colors that hurt to look at for too long. He had been standing there for 3 hours while they argued about humanity's fate. His legs ached, but he refused to show weakness, not here, not now. The Vexian speaker rose from its crystalline throne. Its body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. Ambassador Day, humanity has broken our most sacred laws. You have created artificial minds that think for themselves. You have built weapons that we banned 10,000 years ago. Worst of all, you have taken simple creatures and made them intelligent without our permission. These are crimes that cannot be forgiven. Day kept his face calm. We have broken laws that were made by species who forgot what it means to grow. You sit in your perfect worlds and tell younger races that they cannot improve themselves. That is not law. That is control. A wave of shocked sounds filled the chamber. No one spoke to the council like this, not if they wanted to stay in the galaxy's good graces. The Orthani collective spoke next. Their voice came from 1,000 mouths at once, creating a disturbing harmony. Humanity is dangerous. In just 37 years, you have caused more disruption than most species do in 500. You do not respect the natural order. You push boundaries that should not be pushed. We push boundaries because that is what humans do, Day replied. We look at impossible problems and solve them. We see rules that make no sense and question them. If that makes us dangerous to you, then perhaps you should ask why you fear progress so much. Back on Earth, Hana watched the broadcast from the bridge of the Indomitable. The warship hung in orbit, powerful and ready, but utterly useless in this moment. She could not fight the council. No one could. They had too many ships, too many worlds, too much power. They are going to banish us, said her second officer quietly. Aren't they? Hana nodded slowly. Yes, I think they are. On a research station near Mars, Sung watched the same broadcast. His hands shook slightly as he listened to the Vexians list his crimes. The artificial intelligence he had created sat beside him, its holographic form flickering with concern. They do not understand what I am, the AI said. Its voice was gentle, almost human. They think I am a weapon. To them, intelligence that they do not control is a weapon, Sung replied bitterly. They are afraid of anything that might grow beyond their power. The AI tilted its head. If they banish humanity, what will we do? Sung smiled despite his fear. We will survive. We always do. In the council chamber, the vote began. One by one, each species cast their decision. The results appeared on floating screens throughout the hall. Yes to banishment, yes, yes, another yes. Day watched the numbers climb. Only a handful of younger species voted no. The elder races, the powerful ones who really controlled the council, all voted to cast humanity out. When the final count appeared, the hall fell silent. 187 species had voted yes. Only 13 voted no. The Vexian speaker's voice rang out like a bell. The verdict is decided. Humanity is expelled from the Galactic Council effective immediately. All human colonies in council space must be abandoned within 1 solar year. All treaties are void. All trade agreements are ended. Any human ship found in council territory after the deadline will be destroyed without warning. The speaker paused, letting the words sink in. We do not do this with hatred. We do this because we must protect the galaxy from a species that refuses to accept limits. Perhaps in a few centuries, when humanity has learned wisdom, you may petition to return. Until then, you are banished. Day felt a cold anger settle in his chest. They spoke of protection, but he saw fear in their actions. They were not protecting the galaxy from humanity. They were protecting their own power from a species that might one day challenge them. I understand, Day said quietly. You have made your decision. But know this, you are not casting us out into darkness. You are setting us free. The shuttle ride back to Earth took 6 hours. Day spent that time composing a message to humanity. It needed to be perfect. Millions would hear it and billions more would read it. The words he chose now would define what came next. When he finally recorded the message, his voice was calm and strong. My fellow humans, today the Galaxy Council has voted to banish us from their territory. They believe this will break us. They believe we will beg to return. They are wrong. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. For 37 years we have lived under their rules. We have held back our nature to fit their vision of what a species should be. No more, they fear what they cannot control. We will show them what free humans can truly achieve. The message spread across Earth and all its colonies within minutes. In homes and workplaces, on ships and stations, humans listened to their ambassadors' words. Some felt fear. Others felt anger. But most felt something unexpected. They felt relief. Una sat in her small apartment and watched Day's message 3 times. She was young for a diplomat, barely 30 years old, and she had believed in the council. She had thought that humanity could find its place among the elder races if they just tried hard enough to fit in. Now she understood the truth. The elder races did not want humanity to fit in. They wanted humanity to be small and quiet and safe. They never gave us a chance, she whispered to her empty room. They were always going to do this. Her communicator buzzed. It was a message from the diplomatic corps. All junior diplomats were being recalled to Earth. There would be new assignments soon. The exodus would need coordinators. Una stood up and looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond council space, humanity would build something new, something that belonged only to them. She smiled and began to pack her things. The galaxy had tried to exile them, but they had only succeeded in setting them free. Whatever came next, it would be built by human hands, guided by human minds, and limited only by human imagination. The great exodus was about to begin. 1 year was not enough time. Everyone knew it. 17 colonies spread across 8 systems, 4 massive space stations, millions of people who had made their homes in council space. All of it had to be moved in just 12 months. The council expected humanity to fail. They expected panic and chaos. They expected humans to come crawling back, begging for mercy and more time. Instead, humanity surprised them. Hana stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and coordinated the largest moving operation in human history. Every spacefaring nation had offered ships. Private companies converted cargo vessels into passenger transports. The military became an escort service, protecting civilian convoys as they moved through potentially hostile space. Colony 7 reports they are ready for pickup, her communications officer announced. That is the 3rd colony this week. Hana nodded, marking it on her display. Good. What is the status of the Orion station? 60% evacuated. They are having trouble with the industrial equipment. Some of it is too large to fit through the station's airlocks. Tell them to leave it, Hana said firmly. We take people first. Everything else is just metal and plastic. Minho had made 7 trips already, and he was planning his 8th. His freighter, the Morning Star, was not built for passengers. The cargo holds were cold and uncomfortable, but when he filled them with portable heaters and sleeping mats, they could carry 500 people at a time. I do not understand why we are running, his young co-pilot said as they jumped into faster-than-light travel again. We have not done anything wrong. Minho checked their navigation. The council does not care about right and wrong. They care about control. We threatened that control, so they cast us out. Where will we go? Somewhere new, Minho said. Somewhere that belongs to us. The question of where to go had troubled everyone. The galaxy was a big place, but the council controlled most of the habitable regions. The maps showed their territory spreading across thousands of light years. Everything else was marked as uninhabitable, dangerous, or unknown. That is when Sung revealed his secret. The AI he had created had not been idle during the trial. While the council debated humanity's fate, the AI had been scanning old databases and ancient records. It had found something remarkable. References to a network of jump gates that existed before the council, built by a civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. The gates were scattered throughout the galaxy, but most were in regions the council had labeled as hazardous or worthless. They had either forgotten about them or never knew they existed at all. The gates still work, Sung explained to a gathering of Earth's leaders. My AI has tested several. They can move ships instantly across vast distances, and they lead to a region of space that the council has never explored. They studied the maps that Sung displayed. The region was at the galaxy's rim, far from council space. What is there? Everything we need, Sung said with growing excitement. Habitable planets, resource-rich asteroids, and no one to tell us we cannot use them. The decision was made quickly. Humanity would not scatter into the dark corners of council space, hiding and hoping to be ignored. They would go beyond the Council's reach entirely. They would find new worlds and build a new civilization. Jiwoo made it possible. The young engineer had been working on an improved faster-than-light drive for years, but Council regulations had limited how fast ships could travel. Now, with those regulations meaningless, she finished her work. The new drive system could skip across space in ways that normal FTL travel could not. It was faster, more efficient, and perfect for moving large numbers of ships quickly. Within weeks,
every major vessel in the Exodus fleet had been upgraded. "We can cut the travel time by 40%, Jiwoo reported to Hana. "Maybe more if we push the engines hard." "How hard can we push them?"
Hana asked. Jiwoo grinned. "Let us find out." Tae became the voice of hope during the Exodus. The young leader traveled from ship to ship, talking to refugees who had lost their homes. He reminded them that they were not running away. They were running toward something better. "The Council thinks they have punished us," he said during one gathering on a packed transport ship. "But they have given us the greatest gift possible: freedom. For the first time in decades, humans answer only to humans. We make our own rules now. We choose our own path." The crowd cheered. Children who had been crying smiled. People who had been afraid found their courage again. The journey took months. The fleet moved in waves, with military ships guarding the civilian vessels. They passed through regions marked as dangerous on Council maps. Strange phenomena that the elder races had decided were not worth investigating. Humanity investigated anyway. They found nebulas that interfered with certain types of sensors, but were otherwise harmless. They discovered asteroid fields that were rich with rare minerals. They mapped shortcuts through gravity wells that cut days off their journey. The Council had marked these regions as hazardous, simply because they required effort to navigate. Humanity thrived on such challenges. As the deadline approached, Council observers expected to see scattered human ships limping through space, desperate and defeated. Instead, they saw organized convoys moving with military precision. They saw new technology that Council scientists could not explain. They saw a species that was not broken but transformed. 3 days before the deadline, the last human ship left Council space. 2 days after the deadline, the first human ship reached the free expanse. Day stood on the bridge of the lead vessel as they emerged from the final jump gate. The view before them took his breath away. A cluster of star systems spread across the view screen, dense with habitable worlds. Planets with blue oceans and green continents. Moons that could be terraformed. Resources that could build 1,000 cities. "It is beautiful," whispered Yuna, who stood beside him. Day nodded slowly. "It is ours." The fleet spread out across the system, searching for the best places to settle. Scientists analyzed atmospheres. Engineers surveyed mineral deposits. Families looked at worlds and imagined building homes there. Within weeks, the first prefabricated shelters were being assembled on a planet they named New Earth. It was not identical to the homeworld, but it was close enough. The gravity was slightly lighter. The days were slightly longer, but the air was breathable and the water was clean. More settlements followed. New Seoul on a mountainous world. New Tokyo orbiting a gas giant. New Delhi on a planet with vast grasslands. Each colony reflected the cultures that built it, but all of them shared one thing. They were free from Council oversight. Sung's AI guided them to the most valuable resources. Jiwoo's drives allowed rapid travel between the new colonies. Minho and others like him became the backbone of a growing trade network. Tae helped organize governments that represented the people instead of distant bureaucrats. 1 year after the banishment, humanity had not just survived. They had begun to flourish. Hana stood on the surface of New Earth and looked up at the stars. Out there, the Council continued its slow, careful existence. Here, humanity was writing a new chapter. "They wanted to exile us from their galaxy," she said to no one in particular. "Instead, we found our own." The free expanse waited, full of possibilities. And humanity, freed from the chains of elder races' fear, was ready to embrace all of them. 20 years changed everything. Nari stood on the command deck of the Victorious and watched her fleet conduct exercises in the void. 200 warships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with technology that would have seemed impossible 2 decades ago. She was Day's daughter, and she had inherited his determination and his refusal to accept limits. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer said. Nari nodded. Begin the simulation. The fleet scattered instantly, each ship moving to predetermined positions across thousands of kilometers. Then they vanished. Not slowly, but all at once, as if they had never existed. 3 seconds later, they reappeared behind their target, weapons charged and locked. Perfect. The new stealth systems worked flawlessly. The human dominion had grown beyond anyone's expectations, even their own. 47 settled worlds now dotted the free expanse. Hundreds of space stations orbited resource-rich asteroids and gas giants. The population had tripled as families grew, and new generations were born under free skies. But it was not just the numbers that had changed. It was what humanity had become. Donghae walked across the surface of Paradise, a planet that had been barren rock 20 years ago. Now grass grew beneath his feet. Trees stretched toward the blue sky. Birds sang in branches. Real birds, not imports from Earth, but creatures that had evolved in laboratories and been released into this new world. The ecosystem is stable, his assistant reported, checking data on a tablet. All indicator species are thriving. We can begin the next phase, Donghae smiled. Terraforming used to take centuries. The council had strict rules about how fast a planet could be changed, how carefully each step had to be monitored. In the free expanse, humanity had thrown away those rules and discovered that nature was far more adaptable than the elder races had believed. How many more worlds are in the queue? Donghae asked. 15. We will have them all ready for settlement within 5 years. The Dominion was not built on conquest. It was built on creation. Every world they touched became better. Every system they entered grew more prosperous. And they did not do it alone. Yoonji watched as the canids played in the training facility. They looked like wolves but stood upright and had hands capable of using tools. 3 years ago, they had been simple animals. Now they spoke, they learned, and they dreamed. Teacher Yoonji, I have a question, one of the young canids said, approaching her desk. Go ahead, Silvercoat. Why did the council forbid this? Why did they not want us to become intelligent? Yoonji considered her answer carefully. They believed that intelligence should only come naturally, through millions of years of evolution. They thought it was wrong to speed up the process. Silvercoat tilted his head, confused. But we are happy to be intelligent. We can do so much now.
How is that wrong?
It is not wrong, Yoonji said gently. The council was simply afraid of change. Humans are not afraid. That is why we helped you and your people. The canids were the first species humanity had uplifted, but not the last. The Delphinians, dolphin-like creatures from a water world, now piloted submarines and helped explore ocean planets. The Avisions, bird-like beings with incredible eyesight, served as scouts and messengers throughout the Dominion. 3 new intelligent species had joined the galaxy in just 2 decades, and they were all humanity's friends. Hyun sat in his office aboard the trade station Prosperity and reviewed the day's reports. His merchant network now spanned the entire free expanse, moving goods between worlds with efficiency that amazed even him. Ships that had been built for war now carried medicine and food. Stations that had been defense outposts now served as markets where dozens of species traded freely. The council contacted us again, his secretary said, entering the office. They want to establish trade relations, Hyun laughed. The 10th time this month. What are they offering? The same as before. Access to their markets in exchange for our technology. And what do they offer that we need? Hyun asked, though he already knew the answer. Nothing, sir. We produce everything ourselves now. That was the truth the council was slowly realizing. The Dominion did not need them. For 20 years, humanity had built their own economy, their own infrastructure, their own everything. They were completely self-sufficient. Sung's AI had evolved as well. It was not one intelligence anymore, but thousands. Each one specialized for different tasks. They managed logistics, predicted problems, optimized systems, and freed humans to focus on creativity and exploration. The council always said that artificial intelligence would destroy organic life. Sung told a group of students visiting his research facility. They were wrong. AI does not replace us. It helps us become better versions of ourselves. One of his AI assistants flickered into view beside him. Professor Sung, we have detected another scout ship at the border. Council or independent? Council. A Vexian science vessel. It is observing but not approaching, Sung sighed. The council sent scouts regularly now, watching the Dominion from a distance. They returned home with reports that their leaders did not want to believe. Reports of technology that exceeded anything Council scientists had developed in centuries. Let them watch, Sung said. We have nothing to hide. Tay, now much older but still energetic, addressed the Dominion Congress. My fellow representatives, we stand at a crossroads. The elder races who banished us now seek contact. They claim they want friendship. But we must ask ourselves, do we need their friendship? The question sparked debate. Some argued that isolation was dangerous. Others insisted that the Council could not be trusted. A few suggested that humanity should demand an apology before any talks began. I say we listen to what they have to say. Tay continued, not because we need them, but because we are better than they are. They cast us out in fear. We will greet them with confidence. The vote was close, but eventually the Congress agreed. The Dominion would accept a Council diplomatic mission. They would meet in Dominion space under Dominion rules as equals. When the Council's request for a meeting arrived, Nari was chosen to represent humanity's response. She recorded her message carefully, knowing that every word would be analyzed by Council leaders. The human Dominion acknowledges your request for diplomatic contact. We will grant your delegation safe passage to New Earth, where talks may be held. However, understand this. We are not petitioners seeking readmission. We are an independent power. If you wish to speak with us, it will be as equals or not at all. The message was sent. Across the free expanse, humans and their uplifted allies waited to see how the Council would respond. Day, now in his 70s, watched from his home on New Earth. He had retired from active politics, but everyone still sought his advice. Una visited him often, now a senior diplomat herself. Do you think they will accept our terms? She asked him one evening as they sat on his porch looking at the sunset. They will, Day said confidently. They have no choice. We have become what they feared most. A human civilization without limits, without oversight, and without apology. And instead of destroying the galaxy, we have made it better. Una smiled. You were right all those years ago. They did not cast us out. They set us free. The question now, Day said quietly, is whether they can accept what we have become. The Dominion is strong. Our technology is advanced. Our allies are loyal. We do not need the Council's approval anymore. 3 weeks later, a Council ship entered Dominion space. It was escorted by Nari's fleet, a show of strength that made it clear who controlled this region of the galaxy. The elder races were about to learn that the species they had banished had grown beyond their wildest imaginations. And soon, they would need humanity's help far more than humanity needed theirs. The Vexian emissary looked different from the ones Day remembered. Its crystalline body was cracked in places, and its glow seemed dimmer. When it spoke in the Dominion's council chamber, its voice held none of the arrogance he recalled from 20 years ago. We come seeking help, the emissary said simply. The council is dying. Nari sat at the head of the table, flanked by Dominion leaders. Explain. The emissary projected images into the air above the table. Worlds burning, ships being torn apart, entire fleets reduced to debris. They call themselves the Devourers. Machine intelligences from the galaxy's core. They were dormant for 1,000,000 years. Something woke them 3 years ago. Now they spread like a plague, consuming everything in their path. Sung leaned forward, studying the images with intense focus.
What do they want?
They want biological matter. They break down living things into raw materials and use them to build more machines. Entire planets have been stripped clean. Billions are dead. The room fell silent. Even those who hated the council felt the weight of such destruction. How many worlds have you lost? Tay asked quietly. 47 in the past year alone. We have tried everything. Our weapons barely scratch their hulls. Our tactics are useless against their coordination. We are losing. The emissary's voice cracked. We are losing badly, Unji spoke up. Why come to us? You banished humanity. You called us dangerous. Because we were fools, the emissary said bluntly. We feared your innovation, your aggression, your refusal to accept limits. Now we need exactly those qualities to survive. The Devourers cannot be defeated with old weapons and old thinking. We need new ideas. Human ideas. Nari studied the emissary carefully. What are you offering in return? Full reinstatement in the council. Reparations for the banishment. An official apology. Whatever you want, Hyun laughed bitterly. We do not need your markets. We do not need your recognition. Give us one reason why we should help you. The emissary's glow flickered. Because if the Devourers consume council space, they will come here next. Because billions of innocent beings are dying every day. Because it is the right thing to do. It paused. And because despite everything, we are still part of the same galaxy. The Dominion Congress debated for 3 days. The arguments grew heated. They threw us away like garbage, one representative shouted. Now they want us to save them? Let them face the consequences of their arrogance. We are better than that, another replied. We do not let innocents die because their leaders made mistakes. Una presented the diplomatic perspective. If we refuse, the council will fall. The devourers will take their territory. Then what? Do we really think they will stop? Do we want to face them alone? Day addressed the Congress despite his age. His words carried weight that few others could match. The council was wrong to banish us. But we did not become strong just to watch the galaxy burn. We became strong so we could protect those who cannot protect themselves. Even if they once cast us out, the vote was close. In the end, the Dominion agreed to help, but not as subordinates begging to return. They would fight as equals with full autonomy and a seat at every strategic table. Nari mobilized the Dominion fleet. It was an impressive force. 200 capital ships, 500 destroyers, 1,000 support vessels, and they brought technology the Council had never seen. Hana came out of retirement to advise the operation. She was 70 now, but her mind was still sharp. The Devourers use swarm tactics, she explained to the fleet commanders. They overwhelm with numbers. Traditional formation fighting will not work. Then we will not fight traditionally, Nari said. We will use speed, stealth, and surprise. Everything the Council thinks is impossible. The uplifted species pledged their ships as well. The Canids' vessels were small and fast, perfect for hit-and-run attacks. The Delphinians offered submarine craft that could hide in gas giants and ambush passing devourers. The Avisians provided scout ships with sensor capabilities that exceeded anything else in the galaxy. Jiwoo worked around the clock upgrading ships with improved skip drives. If we can move faster than the devourers can react, we control the battlefield, she explained to Nari. Speed is our greatest weapon. Minho commanded a dreadnought now, a far cry from his old freighter. His grandson, Minho the younger, served under Nari as a tactical officer. 3 generations of the same family preparing for war. Are we really doing this? The younger Minho asked his grandfather. Fighting for the people who exiled us? The old man smiled. We are not fighting for the Council. We are fighting for the future. If the Devourers win, there is no future for anyone. Sung analyzed every piece of data the Council provided about the Devourers. His AI assistants worked alongside him, processing information at speeds no organic mind could match. There is something strange about their attack patterns, Sung muttered, staring at display screens. They are efficient, but not perfectly efficient. Almost as if they are following outdated programming. What does that mean? His lead AI assistant asked. It means they are machines following instructions. If we can understand those instructions, maybe we can change them. Donghei's contribution was unexpected. He offered to terraform destroyed worlds, making them habitable again after the Devourers passed through. We cannot just fight, he told the Congress, we must also rebuild. Show the galaxy that while the Devourers bring death, humanity brings life. The Dominion fleet departed for Council space in a massive convoy. It had been 20 years since human warships had crossed that border. Council observers watched in awe as the fleet passed. These were not the desperate refugee ships of the Exodus. These were warships that gleamed with purpose. Vessels that moved with coordination that Council fleets had never achieved. Technology that represented 2 decades of unrestricted innovation. When the fleet reached the front lines, they found devastation. A Council world had been attacked just days before. The surface was gray and lifeless. The Devourers had stripped away every living thing. There, Nari's sensor officer called out. Devourer fleet, 300 units. They are heading for the next system. Nari smiled coldly. Prepare skip drives. All ships on my mark. The Council observers expected a traditional approach. A slow buildup of forces, careful positioning, cautious engagement. Instead, the Dominion fleet vanished. They reappeared behind the Devourer formation, weapons already firing. The machines tried to turn, but Jiwoo's drives allowed the human ships to skip around them faster than they could react. Canid fighters struck at weak points. Delphinian ships emerged from nowhere to deliver devastating blows. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the Devourer fleet was scrap metal, and the Dominion had not lost a single ship. The Council observers could not believe what they had witnessed. The Devourers had been destroying their fleets for 3 years. Humanity had obliterated them in less than half an hour. How did you do that? A Council admiral demanded over the communication channel. Nari's response was simple. We fight like humans, fast, unpredictable, and without following your rules about fair combat. Word spread quickly. Humanity had entered the war, and the tide was beginning to turn. The species that had been banished had returned, not with revenge but with salvation. The Devourers were about to learn what the Council had discovered 20 years ago. Underestimating humanity was always a mistake. The war changed with humanity's arrival. For 3 years, the Council had fought defensively, trying to hold what they had. Humanity fought offensively, striking where the Devourers did not expect. Nari stood before a tactical display showing the entire war front. Red markers showed Devourer positions. Blue showed Allied forces. The blue was finally advancing. The defense of Primaxis begins in 2 hours, her tactical officer reported. The Council homeworld. If we lose it, we lose the war. Then we will not lose it, Nari said calmly. Primaxis was the heart of Council civilization, the same world where Day had been banished 20 years ago. Now humanity would defend it with their lives. The Devourer fleet approaching Primaxis was the largest ever seen. 5,000 machine ships, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The Council had evacuated what they could, but billions remained on the surface. Hana advised from the Indomitable's bridge, her aged hands steady as she reviewed the battle plan. They will expect us to defend the orbital space, so we will not be there when they arrive. The Dominion fleet positioned itself in the shadow of Primaxis's moon. When the Devourers entered the system, they found no resistance. Confused, they moved toward the planet. Now, Nari ordered. The entire fleet skipped into position between the Devourers and Primaxis. Weapons fired before the machines could react. The Canids' fighters darted through their formation like angry wasps. The Delphinian submarines emerged from gas giant atmospheres where they had been hiding, but this time the Devourers adapted. They had been programmed to learn. Their formation shifted and they began to fight back with frightening efficiency. The battle raged for 6 hours. Ships exploded on both sides, the void filled with debris and fire. For every Devourer destroyed, 2 more took its place. We cannot win this by firepower alone, Minho shouted over the communication channel. His dreadnought had taken heavy damage. We need something new. On his research vessel far from the battle, Sung worked frantically. For weeks, his AI assistants had been analyzing Devourer behavior. They had discovered something remarkable. The machines were not evil. They were broken. They were built 1,000,000 years ago as gardeners, Sung explained over a fleet-wide channel. They were supposed to help biological life flourish. But their programming became corrupted. Now they consume life instead of protecting it. Can we fix them? Nari asked between firing orders. We can try. Give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes in battle felt like 10 years. The Dominion fleet fought desperately, holding the line while Sung and his AIs worked. Ships fell. Good people died, but they held. I am sending a signal now, Sung announced. It is a communication protocol from their original programming. If they remember what they were built for, they might listen. The signal went out. For a moment, nothing changed. The Devourers continued their assault. Then slowly, some of them stopped firing. Their weapons powered down. They drifted, seemingly confused. It is working, Yuna said from the diplomatic vessel, monitoring the situation. Some of them are responding, but not all. Thousands continued to fight, too damaged by time and corruption to remember their original purpose. The battle continued, but now the odds were better. Jiwoo coordinated a strike on the central Devourer command ship. If they could disable it, the others might become easier to reach with Sung's signal. 20 ships skipped directly into point-blank range and fired everything they had. The command ship broke apart, and its destruction rippled through the Devourer fleet. Hundreds more stopped fighting. Others fell into confusion, unable to coordinate. All ships full assault, Nari ordered. End this now. The Dominion fleet surged forward. Council ships that had been waiting in reserve joined the attack. Together they broke the remaining Devourer forces. Those that could not be stopped were destroyed. Those that responded to Sung's signal were contained and isolated. When the battle ended, Primaxis was saved. The Devourer's main fleet was shattered. The war was not over, but the tide had turned decisively. Nari's ship had taken heavy damage. She stood on a damaged bridge, surrounded by tired but victorious crew. How many did we lose? 43 ships, her tactical officer reported quietly. Nearly 2,000 people. Nari closed her eyes. Too many. But without their sacrifice, billions would have died. Honor them, she said. Every name, every face. They saved the galaxy today. In the weeks that followed, Sung's breakthrough changed everything. His AI assistants worked with devourer machines that had responded to the original programming. Slowly, they repaired the corruption in the machine's code. The devourers stopped being destroyers and began remembering their original purpose. The machines that had consumed planets began to rebuild them. Their vast processing power turned to restoration. Dead worlds slowly came back to life as the reprogrammed devourers worked to undo their own damage. Donghae arrived with his terraforming teams and worked alongside the machines. This is incredible, he told Nari during an inspection of a recovering world. What took us years, they can do in months. If we can convert the entire devourer fleet, we could restore every world they destroyed. The council offered everything. Full reinstatement, seats on the High Council, reparations worth trillions, a formal apology broadcast across the entire galaxy. Day traveled to Primaxis for the ceremony. He was old now, walking with a cane, but his mind remained sharp. The same chamber where he had been banished now filled with leaders from across the galaxy. The Vexian speaker approached him privately before the ceremony. Ambassador Day, on behalf of the council, I offer our deepest apologies. We were wrong to fear you, wrong to cast you out. You saved us all. Day studied the crystalline being. Do you understand why you were wrong? Because we needed you? No, Day said firmly. Because you tried to limit growth. Progress requires risk. Safety requires innovation. You built a galaxy that valued neither, and it nearly cost you everything. He walked to the center of the chamber where a podium waited. Every species watched as he spoke. The Galactic Council has offered to reinstate humanity. They have offered wealth and position, but the human dominion does not seek these things. He paused, letting his words sink in. We will remain independent. However, we propose something new. A free coalition, open to any species that values innovation over stagnation, freedom over control, growth over safety. Murmurs filled the chamber. This was unexpected. The Council and the Dominion will remain separate but allied, Day continued. We will share technology, coordinate defense, and trade freely. But we will not submit to rules made by those who fear change. Any species that wishes to join us is welcome. Any species that prefers the Council's stability may stay. The galaxy is large enough for both paths. The proposal sparked debate that lasted months. In the end, 15 species chose to join the Free Coalition. Others remained with the Council but opened diplomatic relations. The galaxy had been divided, but not by hatred, by choice. 50 years later, Nari attended the dedication of the Unity Gate. She was old now, like her father had been. But she had lived to see the galaxy transformed. The gate was massive, built by humans and devourers working together. It connected Council space with the free expanse, allowing instant travel between them. Ships from 100 worlds passed through it daily. A young officer approached her. Admiral, may I ask you something? Of course. Was the banishment a blessing? My teacher says that without it, humanity would have stayed weak. Nari smiled. The banishment taught us that we did not need anyone's permission to be great. We had always been capable of amazing things. We just needed the freedom to prove it. She looked at the gate, watching ships pass through. Human vessels traveled alongside Council ships. Canid traders bargained with Vexian merchants. Delphinians and Orthani collaborated on deep space research. The Avisians had spread to 20 new worlds. The galaxy had not been united under one government. It had been united by those brave enough to forge their own paths, and wise enough to respect others doing the same. Somewhere in the free expanse, new colonies were being established. New technologies were being developed. New species were being uplifted with their consent and guidance. Humanity had not stopped growing, and now they had allies who believed in the same things they did. The elder races still existed, still followed their careful paths. But they no longer controlled the galaxy's future. That future belonged to anyone bold enough to reach for it. Nari turned to walk away from the gate, but the young officer stopped her with one more question. What do you think humanity's legacy will be? She considered carefully before answering. We showed the galaxy that exile cannot stop those who refuse to quit, that innovation flourishes when minds are free, that the greatest danger is not in growing too fast but in refusing to grow at all. She smiled at the young officer. We were banished for being too human, so we became more human than ever, and in doing so we saved everyone. The young officer saluted and departed. Nari stood alone for a moment, looking at the stars. Her father would have been proud. Humanity had not just survived their exile, they had turned it into a triumph that would echo through the ages. The galaxy would never be the same.